Having a win or lose mentality is really not doing you any favors in making progress towards any goal or aspiration that is really meaningful and important to you. So, what do I mean when I say a win or lose mentality? Or you could also even think about this as pass fail. This kind of thinking is where you tend to view or regard anything that doesn't yield a substantial immediate return as just like a failure or a waste of time, because again it doesn't show an immediately tangible result. Now I know this is going to sound cliche and you've probably already heard it 1,000 times before, but anything that is really worth doing takes real work and is a serious investment of your time and energy. So you really can't expect these kinds of things just to happen overnight. So if you're in the habit of seeing every small step as a loss or time wasted, then you're really never going to be able to see any big and meaningful project or goal through to the end. Ideally, the optimal frame of mind that you kind of want to aim for is to start to view every small step as a win or a gain, especially if it does anything like refines your skills or gives you more valuable experience or teaches you something or just generally gives you feedback that helps you kind of refine the iterative process of whatever skill it is that you are working at mastering. So for example, if I only get like 25 views on a YouTube video, and I'm using, only in very strong air quotes, then on the one hand, I could view that as, a catastrophic failure because, if my only metric of success is view count, then getting 25 views or even let's say under 100 views on a video could just seem like an absolute failure by that definition of success. And when you think that way and you see every little step as like wasted time, then just keep in mind that that also causes you to feel more poorly about yourself, which definitely, again, it isn't doing you any favors and it's not contributing to your overall momentum. On the other hand, if I regard every YouTube video that I create as a small gain or a win, because, again, it gives me more experience with making videos, it helps me to figure out what works and what doesn't work, it helps me build up my confidence with being in front of a camera, anything like that, any way that you can actually see it as being advantageous, then this totally is just a shift in your mindset that's going to do a lot more for you, and that's really going to help you sustain your growth for the long term. Now, here's a really important key to keep in mind with all of this, which is that if you really don't enjoy the process of what you're doing and are really only in it for whatever perceived end result you think is going to come about, as a result of your efforts, then you really may want to strongly consider moving on and finding anything else to invest your time and energy into that you really feel is more aligned with your true interests and passions. And of course, keep in mind that this can really apply to any field or endeavor, and just does not strictly apply to content creation, which should be fairly obvious. Becoming truly great at anything that's meaningful and important to you definitely requires persistence and dedication. And in the long run, it's going to be much harder if your heart really isn't truly in it, because then you're just going to have a lot more internal resistance that's just going to cause a lot of friction and a lot of tension, and it's just going to end up being a very draining, and exhausting and just kind of overall discouraging process when you don't immediately see the kind of results that you're hoping to achieve with, every small little step that you take. So to make this a little bit more practical, here are some really great questions that you can ask yourself the next time you're feeling stuck or like you're just not getting anywhere with the steps that you are taking even on a daily basis. you can begin to ask yourself questions like, what is the real reason that I'm doing this? Why did I start doing this to begin with? Or what is the, like, the big long-term vision or goal that I'm working towards? Do I truly enjoy doing this? And is this even the kind of thing that I would do even if I already had all of the measures of success, like money or, wealth, status, whatever it is you're after? Would I still be doing this anyway, just for the pure love of it? If any of these types of questions kind of reconnect you with the initial spark of like hope and inspiration and excitement that you might have had at the outset of whatever it is that you're working on, then that's probably a really good indication that you're onto something that is definitely still worth pursuing. Now, some of you may be asking yourselves at this point, well, what if I have been taking very consistent action steps for quite a long period of time, and still I'm not nearly as far along as I thought that I would be by this point? And, it's a valid question. If this is where you find yourself, then it may be time to do a little bit of honest reflection and evaluation. Unless we are absolutely incredible at something right out of the gate, then the process of growth is definitely going to involve a lot of iteration and trial and error and refinement until we really start to see better results. And even if we are like highly talented and just really amazing at something right from the start, even so, there's always still going to be room for improvement no matter what. But if you really feel like you've been getting nowhere with the action steps that you've been taking on a pretty consistent basis, then you may want to consider giving yourself a deadline or some kind of an ultimatum, at which point you maybe decide to really like drastically change up your process or your strategy, your approach, or maybe even consider tweaking your goals a little bit to be more aligned with something that you feel is perhaps more practical, more realistic, more reasonable, whatever you think. Now, this kind of a time frame could be anything that feels reasonable and appropriate for you, like 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. It's going to greatly vary from person to person. But basically what you want to be sure of is that it's long enough so that you don't stop too soon before you've really given yourself a chance to see what can come about as the result of your efforts, especially if you kind of recommit yourself to maybe even pushing a little bit harder and giving even a little bit more to it. The real point of all of this is that you really just don't want to stop just because on the surface it appears like nothing is happening. The universe really does work in mysterious ways sometimes. In fact, probably a lot of the times. And I think that a little bit of like irrational certainty and faith that your ultimate success is inevitable may just be the thing that you really need to ultimately get to where you want to be in the end. So just try to understand that if you view every little step as a failure or a waste of time because it doesn't seem like anything is happening, then you literally can't ever expect to get anywhere. Because as the well-known saying goes, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You could never get to the peak of a mountain if you didn't take one step after another to ascend, the great slope so that you can get to that more elevated perspective. And just keep in mind too, that at the very least, even when you work steadily towards something, you're developing skills and talents and maybe even qualities of who you are that you will have for a lifetime and that truly nobody can ever take away from you. Regardless of what you ever end up doing, whether you stick with the thing that you're working towards or not, you may develop a set of skills and qualities that you can transfer to other areas of your life and that, like I said, will be with you for your lifetime. So it all really isn't a waste of time when you start to think about it like that. So anyway, that's where I'm going to wrap this one up for today. But thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you found this helpful and are interested in seeing more content like this. For those that are interested, I am certified in a number of really powerful transformational modalities, such as emotional freedom techniques, also known as tapping, hypnosis, and neuro-linguistic programming. So if you are interested in working with me one-on-one to help really break through the kinds of limiting beliefs and mental blocks that are getting in the way of you achieving your highest potential, then definitely be sure to check out the link in the description of this video to learn a little bit more about what I do and how I can help you. Thanks again for watching. Really hope to see you in the next one.